Greetings and welcome to the Fan Perspective. My name is Nathan Lyle and this is NFL Weekly, and we're going to start the show by just giving a big round of applause to Johnny Football for making even Brian Hoyer look not horrible. And so now we'll get started with some playoff talk, because now things are starting to really shape up. The Indianapolis Colts have clinched their division when they beat the Texans, and by defeating the Chargers, the Broncos have stamped their playoff ticket, claiming a division title. The Patriots, they dominated the Dolphins. They have officially won their division as well. But the Bills held Rodgers without a touchdown, and so by beating the Packers, they keep their wildcard hopes alive. And with the Packers losing and the Lions winning, that division is now wide open. The Lions actually are in control of it now. Things just kind of flipped the script right there. The Cardinals, they lost their QB. And now they're going with a bunch of guys whose names I've never even heard before. But they have clinched the postseason berth, and they still have a chance to win their division if they can beat the Seahawks next week. And then the Bengals, they won again, and they are now in complete control. If they just keep winning, they get the division. That's pretty simple. But the Steelers, if they win out, they can still get the division, because the final game of the season is the Bengals versus the Steelers. And the Ravens, they still have a shot at the division, but they basically have to win both of their games and hope that the other two teams are 0-2 and 1-1. And then Dallas, they beat the Eagles, and all this I gotta say is, told you motherfuckers. I just love how easily so many people can just change their minds. It's like, oh, Dallas lost one game to the Eagles. They'll never beat them again. You do realize Mark Sanchez is the QB. I mean, it's not even that I have faith in Dallas. It's just that I have very little faith in Mark Sanchez. And so, yeah, now the Dallas back in control of the division again. And so here are some of the scenarios to look out for this week. I'm not going to read all of them, but it's all included in the description. The Cardinals, all they have to do is win this week, and they clinch not only the NFC West title, but home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And then the Lions, they can clinch a playoff spot if they win, or the Eagles lose, or if the Packers lose. And they can also clinch a first-round bye if they win and the Packers and Cowboys both lose. The Cowboys can clinch a playoff berth if they win and the Packers lose, and the Lions lose, as long as they don't both tie. They can also clinch the NFC West if they win and the Eagles lose, or just tie. The Seahawks can clinch a playoff spot with a win and an Eagles loss, or a win and a Lions loss. And a win and a Packers loss, or a tie and an Eagles loss, or a tie and a Lions loss and a Packers loss. Basically, the Seahawks, if they win, they still need a few other people to lose for them to get in the playoffs. Well, for them to officially clinch a playoff spot. I mean, there's 2 weeks left in the season. I have a feeling Seahawks are probably going to win both of those and have the division. And then you've got the Packers. Even though they lost, they can still clinch a playoff spot if they win and the Eagles lose, or if they win and the Cowboys lose and the Eagles lose or tie, or if they tie and the Eagles lose, or if they tie and the Eagles and Cowboys tie or win, or if the Eagles lose. Well, basically the Packers, they're looking at the Eagles and Cowboys games to see what happens there. There's a lot going on with that. And then the Saints, they clinch the NFC South if they win and the Panthers lose. But that's just the people who can clinch. I'm not talking about other people who are in the hunt, because there are a lot of teams out there. Like, you got the Chargers, the Bills, and the Chiefs. They're all 8-6, but their scenarios are just, it's much longer. They have to basically win out, and then 5 other teams have to lose, but then these 2 specific teams have to tie. A lot of stuff going on. And in the AFC, the Patriots, if they win today, they can possibly clinch a first-round bye, depending on what happens with the Colts, Bengals, and Steelers and Ravens. But if they win and the Broncos lose, that's home field throughout. And then the Broncos, they can clinch first round bye with a win, or if they tie and the Colts either lose or tie. The Bengals, if they win, they clinch a playoff spot, or they can tie, and then just have other teams like the Ravens, Chargers, Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, and Ravens. If these teams lose or tie and stuff, then the Bengals can still possibly clinch the playoff berth or even the AFC North, depending on what happens with all of them. The Steelers, they can clinch a playoff spot. All they have to do is beat the Chiefs. That's all they do. Just win, you're in. And then the Ravens, they can clinch the playoff spot with a win and a Steelers and Bengals loss, or a Chiefs loss and a Chargers loss, or a tie and a Chiefs loss, or a Chargers loss and a Bills loss. That's the basic playoff scenario. And so, looking on to this week, there are a few different games and I'm just looking at the ones where both of the teams playing have playoff implications. You've got the Falcons at the Saints. The Saints, basically right now, you win, they clinch the division. But the Falcons, if they manage to win, they will be in complete control of the division, and they'll be one win away from getting it all. And, they control the division so far. They are 4-0 against division team rivals this year, so you really never know. And then you've also got the Steelers at the Chiefs. If the Steelers win, they clinch a playoff spot. The Chiefs, if they win, they can still grab a wild card spot. But you also, more than anything else, if you love the running game, you get to see some top halfbacks between Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Charles, and even now Davis when he gets in there. I mean, that one should be a fun game either way. And then you've got the 4 o'clock games. You got the Colts at the Cowboys. The Colts have the division title, but are still fighting for the possibility of a first-round bye and home field advantage throughout. And a win here for the Cowboys could mean potentially clinching a playoff berth. It could mean winning the division. It could also mean nothing at all. But a loss could potentially be the end of their season. And then on Sunday, on the night game, you've got the Seahawks at Cardinals, and if the Cardinals win, then that's basically it. Their season is done. They've got home field advantage. They can rest some players next week, basically have a 2-week bye. And they'd get the division title, they'd get home field advantage, but the Seahawks, a win gives them the control of the division and a shot at the first round bye and potentially home field advantage. And then the Monday night game, you got the Broncos at the Bengals, and the Broncos, if they win, they clinch a first round bye. It keeps their hopes for the home field advantage alive. But if the Bengals can win, they'll clinch a playoff spot. Potentially, they have a chance of winning the division that night. And it should be a fun matchup. Both of these teams are actually very similar. They've got a strong running game, which is shouldered by some relatively new names that just popped up this year. And they've got underrated defenses, a strong passing attack. The main difference between their teams is that the Broncos, their passing attack is led by a future Hall of Famer, and the Bengals, their passing game is led by Dalton. So that's it for this edition of NFL Weekly. Tune in next week for another all-new episode. But until then, this has been the Fan Perspective. I'm your host, Nathan Lyle. Happy playoffs.